It came from.
That's right. It came from. This week, it's going to be all Reddit. This is the part of the show where we search all over the internet to bring you topics the community is talking about. Any topic is fair game as long as it relates to the field of human factors. And Blake and I have an opinion on it. So up first this week, let's go ahead and take this first one. It's mentioning difficult clients during interviews. This one was written by Helvetica Forever on the user experience subreddit. They go on to write, they say never badmouth an employer in an interview, but is it okay to acknowledge that you were dealing with a challenging external client on a project? Some projects are challenging simply because the client didn't know what they wanted and regularly changed expectations and requirements with no notice. If those conditions are phrased politely to contextualize a project, would it be considered a red flag from an employer's perspective? I wouldn't ever say, quote, well, the client was dumb and wanted a bunch of stupid, terrible stuff, end quote. But clearly discussing significant constraints is a big part of my story. Blake, would you ever badmouth a client in an interview?
Absolutely not. Because I mean that's bad manners. And so it's one of those things where you definitely don't want to do that. However, I will say that I have been asked, and I do ask, tell me about a difficult situation in which you had to navigate a tough client or a hard project, either that or like dealing with, your internal team having a hard time or dealing with a tough stakeholder. So it's something that I think people should be well versed in talking about, but like this is kind of hinting, you want to frame it right. You don't want to badmouth the client or kind of like talk a bunch of trash. You want to accentuate the fact that you were met with specific constraints. You figured out and pivoted in a way that matched the client's needs, matched hopefully your end user needs as well, and also helped your team adapt to a changing problem. Because it can be very difficult to work with, especially if you're kind of like in an agency or you're a freelancer. It can be difficult working with an external client. Things change. They want something different. Maybe your branding isn't right, whatever it may be. But how you talk about it is mainly the important part. But Nick, what do you think? I mean, would you ever badmouth a client to a new employer or a prospective employer?
Yes, but not specific names. I would mention, or projects. I would mention that, yes, I've worked with difficult clients in the past. They have demanded things, and explaining that relationship that you had with them to a potential employer is important, I feel. Because for a variety of reasons, there can be difficult clients on any project. Now, what you're getting from explaining that you've had a difficult client in the past is I'm communicating to you, my prospective employer, that I know how to communicate to somebody in a professional manner and manage that. And I think that's incredibly valuable because if you don't know how to manage it, then you're not going to have great customer-client relations. You're going to have, a bad reputation in your community. And so it's a matter of, we can talk about approaching it as a separate issue someday. But for now, it's just, do you bring this up during interviews? Absolutely. Like I said, don't mention names, don't mention projects, but say, here's one example. I was working on a project and XYZ happened, and that was a very difficult challenge for me to overcome. And kind of frame it that way, right? So you're framing it as a challenge that you've overcame, and you're also explaining to a prospective employer what your process is for, overcoming some of those challenges. So I'm a yes. I'm a yes on that.
There you go. Very good. Soft skill challenge number 1. There you are.
Perfect.